Hello and welcome to Online PTE. My name is Alistair and today's session is Listening, Module 4 and Task 2. Multiple choice, choose multiple answers. So, have you downloaded your worksheets? Do you have notes and pen and paper ready? Then let's get started. So multiple choice, multiple answer is a tricky part of the reading test. Probably along with reorder paragraphs, the most difficult of the 5 tasks. So with multiple choice, you have to choose more than one response. And therefore you have to be 100% sure, or maybe 95% sure, that your answers are correct. Because in this part of the listening test and the equivalent in the reading test, if you make a mistake, you actually get negative marks. So for example, let's say that there are 3 answers to one particular task, and you're sure about 2 of them, then stick with those 2. If you're hesitating about one and you still tick it, then you will lose marks. So let's try and be as sure as you can for this part of the test. So there are 2 or 3 tasks in the exam. The audio can last between 40 and 90 seconds. And with any listening examination, there will be a lot of distractors. There'll be a lot of audio which are not required for the actual answers. So you've got to be really focused and concentrated for the whole of the audio. Before you listen, make sure you read the question and fully understand it. Now that may sound a little bit obvious, but if you miss one crucial word such as a negative or an adverb, so cannot or always, occasionally, if you miss that one word, that will distract you and can affect the result. So quickly skim the options. Once you've got a task, look for keywords in those options which stand out to you. Now as you listen, you will be focusing on the speaker's main ideas and the overall flow of what he or she is saying. After the audio has been completed, eliminate options where there is incorrect information or mention something that was not referred to in the lecture. So after the audio is finished, you're looking for more than one option, and as I said before, click on the options that you're pretty sure about. If you are undecided about a particular option, it really is best to leave it. Okay. So, in multiple choice, the speaker's main ideas, the overall content of the lecture, the speaker's objectives, and also the attitude and opinion of the speaker. And all of this is dependent on the tone and how the speaker emphasizes certain points. If the speaker slows down to emphasize a certain point, as I am doing now, that is key information. If the intonation is lifted and heightened, then again, that's key information. So that's when you want to really focus. If the speaker starts to speed up a little bit, or if he or she is not emphasizing particular points, then that is not important for your answers. And one other final point is that a lot of multiple choice, multiple answer questions are either implied or inferred. Do you know what that means? So implied or inferred means that the point is not directly stated. So that's really quite a tricky thing for you to practice. Okay, so let's have a go at a PTE task. And this is from the PTE Academic Test Builder. So these books are available, and this is on page 39, which is the first listening task. So quickly look at the question. The question for this particular task is, which of the following are mentioned as influences on the English landscape garden? Quickly skim down, you're looking for those keywords, the poet Alexander Pope, the Romantic movement, and so on. And then from those 5 options, you're going to choose more than one response that are mentioned as influences on the English landscape garden. Okay, all right, are you ready? Let's listen to that audio.
The heyday of the English landscape garden was the 18th century, and it stood for many things. The appreciation of natural beauty, of course, but also the idea of a civilized life, good taste, one's personal philosophy, and one's social status. Gardens also, though it is hard for us to credit, became expressions of their owners' political affiliations. Until the picturesque style emerged as part and parcel of the Romantic movement, gardens had been strictly formal, laid out with mathematical precision following the Italian and French examples. There then came a backlash against this rigid formality, led by, among others, the poet Alexander Pope. Pope and his allies argued for a more natural nature. Lord Burlington was a major figure in the landscape garden movement, and he was famously influenced by his love of the Italian architect Andrea Palladio, along with the picturesque or romanticized landscapes of Italian classical painting. With these in mind, he scattered his gardens and parks with classical Greek and Roman temples and statues. In other words, he wanted to make the garden look like those paintings.
Okay, so Alexander Pope, Lord Burlington, on both occasions, the lady speaking, her voice was slightly higher intonation and slightly stronger emphasis. So that really focuses you to listen to the next part of the audio. And yeah, you're looking for 3 answers out of those choices of 5. Did you get them? The answers are 1, 2 and 4. 1 is correct because the speaker says, and I'll read from the book, there then came a backlash against this rigid formality, led by, amongst others, the poet Alexander Pope. Pope and his allies argued for a more natural nature. 2 is correct because the speaker says, until the picturesque style emerged as part and parcel of the Romantic movement, gardens had been strictly formal. There then came a backlash against this rigid formality. And 4 is correct because the speaker says, Lord Burlington, and that was that strong emphasis and intonation, Lord Burlington was a major figure in the landscape garden movement, and he was famously influenced by the picturesque or romanticized landscapes of Italian classical painting. Okay, let's do a task together. So on the downloaded worksheets, you'll see B, and that question is, which of the countries still use woodblock printing on fabrics? So the word still is really important. It's an adverb and it means it's happening at the moment. And so your verb tenses are also really important for this task. Okay, quickly skim through the 6 countries and let's listen to that audio.
Became fairly common in 15th century Europe, but had been used long before that for printing designs on textiles. Most of these were simple in design and quite crudely cut, but some were skillfully drawn and cut, while others even contained pictorial imagery. Records show that woodblock printing on fabrics was practiced by the Egyptians as early as 2000 years BC. The oldest existing printed fabric, which is Egyptian, dates from the 4th century. At the same time, the craft seems to have become widely established, even commonplace, elsewhere, for example in India, Mexico and Peru, where the same techniques continue to be practiced today. And the technique was almost certainly used by both the Japanese and the Chinese too.
Okay, so you're looking for 3 out of those 6 countries, and first of all, number 1 is incorrect because the technique was used in Japan in the past, so your verb tense is really important. Number 2, which is Peru. Peru is correct because the speaker says, at the same time, the craft has been widely established and actually used in countries India, Mexico and Peru, and they're still being used today. Still being used today. So the key words were used today. Number 3 is therefore correct. 4 is incorrect because again it was talking about past tense, and the same applies to number 5. So 1, 4 and 5 are all incorrect because of the verb tenses. It mentioned Egypt quite in some detail, and it said was practiced today in Egypt some time ago. So really key words and verb tenses are very important for that part of the task. Okay? All right, so just to go back, make sure you understand that question as clearly as possible. Just spending that extra 3 or 4 seconds getting to know that question, looking out for those key words such as negatives or adverbs of time, and that will help you tremendously. Okay? How about preparing and practicing? Well, one website that we strongly recommend here at Turner English is TED, www.ted.com. It can actually help you directly with several of the PTE tasks, sort of right from dictation, repeat sentence, retell lecture, summarise spoken text. But also the more listening you can do, and in fact the material on TED will be more challenging than the audio that you'll get in PTE. So choose a TED lecture that you enjoy, and those students that go and use TED, after about an hour they suddenly find they immerse themselves in the lecture, they're enjoying what they're doing, they're focusing on somebody speaking perfect English, and they're listening to different structures. Always choose a TED lecture that has an interactive transcript. Then you can open the transcript after you've listened, and listen to the audio again as you read that transcript. So TED is a fantastic resource. With TED, as in the PTE examination, the speaker's voice often speeds up for a few seconds. Now sometimes on TED, because they have a live audience, they might be making a joke and expressing humour. So that's the occasion when you sort of lose your focus for a few seconds, and then you come back to the more serious part of the lecture, which is emphasised and heavily intonated. So the more practice of listening you can get with any audios or even podcasts, the better you will be for PTE. Okay, so remember, perseverance and consistency are absolutely important. Make sure you keep up with your homework, and remember your teachers are waiting for you. So good luck.